Lebanon is on fire right now despite the announcement of a ceasefire between Iran and the US. The Israel Defense Forces continue heavy bombardments, including in the country's capital Beirut, as they carry on their operation to eliminate the Lebanese group Hezbollah. Iran is demanding a ceasefire, claiming that this was supposedly a condition of the ceasefire agreement between the US and Iran. But in Israel and the US, they stated that no, the agreement does not apply to Lebanon. As a result, Tehran issued an ultimatum and closed the Hormuz Strait again, even though it wasn't really open in the first place. Nevertheless, according to officials in Tehran, further negotiations are impossible while the war in Lebanon continues. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start this episode, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and leave any comment you want. And if you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation or sponsorship on YouTube. All the links and details on how to support Pechiy's channel are in the description of this video or by the QR code on your screens. And subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechiy News. The link to it is also in the description of this video. So, on Wednesday, Israel carried out massive strikes on southern Lebanon, despite the US halting its bombings of Iran and Pakistan's statement that military actions on this front should also be suspended. The Lebanese Ministry of Health reported in the evening that at least 112 people were killed and 837 were injured as a result of the shelling. The strikes were carried out a few hours after the announcement of a ceasefire between the US and Iran. Israel is shelling Hezbollah positions and warning the population of southern Lebanon about the need to evacuate. All this is happening amid uncertainty about whether the ceasefire agreement applies to Israel's military actions against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel has expressed support for US President Donald Trump's decision to suspend strikes on Iran for 2 weeks. At the same time, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insists that the IDF will continue to strike Lebanon since, in his opinion, the ceasefire in the war with Iran does not apply to Lebanon. This contradicts the statement by Pakistan, which acted as a mediator in brokering the ceasefire with Iran, that actions on the Lebanese front should also be suspended. Pakistani Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, who acted as a mediator in the conflict, stated that the 2-week ceasefire between Iran and the US applies everywhere, including Lebanon. Hezbollah, apparently, has stopped shelling northern Israel since the beginning of the ceasefire. The group, which, by the way, dragged Lebanon into the Middle East war by attacking Israel on March 2nd, has not announced any operations, but stated that it has, quote, a natural and legitimate right to resist occupation and respond to its aggression. As a result, Washington publicly stated that the ceasefire agreement between the US and Iran does not apply to Israeli strikes on Hezbollah in Lebanon. At the same time, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi stated, quote, the terms of the ceasefire agreement between Iran and the US are clear and unambiguous. The US must make a choice, a ceasefire or continuing the war through Israel. They cannot have both. The world is witnessing mass killings in Lebanon. The ball is in the US's court, and the world is watching to see if the country will fulfill its obligations. Egypt, which acted as a mediator in reaching the ceasefire agreement, also accused Iran and Israel of a deliberate attempt to undermine the truce. But here's the catch. Israel has not held any talks with Iran, either directly or through intermediaries, and therefore Israel has not made any ceasefire agreement with anyone at all. Israel formally has no obligations to abide by any agreements reached, I emphasize, between the US and Iran. If Iran wants to stop the shelling of Lebanon, then logically it should have negotiated with Israel separately, but that hasn't happened. Once again, Israel hasn't held any ceasefire negotiations with anyone, so what obligations does it have? Right now, thousands of Israeli soldiers are taking positions deep inside Lebanese territory, and that's why the Israeli government says it won't withdraw its troops or allow hundreds of thousands of displaced Lebanese civilians to return home, until Hezbollah is disarmed. By the way, this was agreed upon during the establishment of the current ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel last year. but the Lebanese government has not been able to achieve the disarmament of Hezbollah. So what's the issue then? And now Axios reports. He stated that Netanyahu raised the issue of Lebanon in a phone conversation with President Trump shortly before the ceasefire was announced. During the phone conversation, Trump and Netanyahu agreed that hostilities in Lebanon could continue. Moreover, the U.S. representative stated that at the moment, the White House is not at all concerned that the situation in Lebanon could lead to the breakdown of the ceasefire agreement with Iran. On Wednesday, the Israel Defense Forces carried out a massive series of strikes against Hezbollah targets in Beirut, in the Bekaa Valley, and in southern Lebanon. The Israel Defense Forces stated that this was the largest coordinated wave of strikes on Lebanon since the beginning of the war in Iran. According to the Israel Defense Forces, 50 Israeli Air Force fighter jets took part in the strikes, attacking 100 Hezbollah command centers and military infrastructure sites using about 160 munitions. At the same time, the Iranian news agency Tasnim reported that Iran would withdraw from the ceasefire agreement if the attack on Lebanon continues. The Fars agency reports that on Wednesday, after massive Israeli strikes, oil tankers passing through the Strait of Hormuz were stopped. As a result, Iran officially announced the new closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Interestingly, Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam also accused Israel of violating the ceasefire. The Lebanese presidential administration called the Israeli strikes a new massacre. But once again, who exactly did Israel agree on the ceasefire with? The Prime Minister of Lebanon says that Israel violated the ceasefire, but where did Israel commit to observing it? Where? Or maybe Lebanon was negotiating with someone, or what? I think there were no negotiations between Lebanon and Israel about a ceasefire, or were there? Or maybe we missed something and the Prime Minister of Lebanon, Nawaf Salam, can tell us something? Right now, Tehran is actively trying to save, of course, the Hezbollah group, because for many years this group has helped Iran terrorize Israel. And so the Iranian Foreign Minister, Arakchi, has been calling everyone he knows all day today, demanding that Israel be forced to stop firing. Even the Pakistani mediator insists that for some reason Israel should stop. Next, I'll quote the Prime Minister of Pakistan. In several places in the conflict zone, there have been violations of the ceasefire which undermine the spirit of the peace process. I sincerely and wholeheartedly urge all parties to exercise restraint and observe the 2-week ceasefire as agreed so that diplomacy can play a leading role in the peaceful resolution of the conflict. So I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you already know what to do. You can do this by making any donation using the QR code on your screen or through the links and details in the description of this video. I will be grateful for any support you can give. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.